So maybe a lot of you today didn't hear the news about what Apple was looking to do. And so this actually came out today. I had noticed this while I was trading. I've been trading for a very long time. So a lot of the news that comes out on a regular basis, whether it's about health or what's going on geopolitically, it's always going to hit the stock market beforehand. And so individuals who follow things financially, you're going to hear a lot about this stuff. It's one of the reasons why I found out about the 19 in the very beginning and everything that was going on and where stuff and who was getting what contract, etc. All that stuff comes out of the financial markets. And so as they say, at the end of the day, when in doubt, follow the money. So this was an interesting report. This is on The Hedge by Tyler Durden, talking about Apple reportedly planning hardware subscription services. And so basically, instead of going out and purchasing a phone, what they want to do is they want to make the hardware that you have a subscription model. And so as they say later on, that it's basically based off of the type of phone that you get. So instead of the phone basically being broken up, as it says here, Bloomberg reports that the program would differ from an installment program in that the monthly charge wouldn't be priced on the device split across 12 or 24 months, right? So they're not just basically saying, well, we're just going to take the price of the phone and break it up over X amount of time, and then you'll be done with it. No, you're perpetually will be paying for the use of your phone in the world where you will own nothing and you will be happy. And so this is how they incrementally kind of bring these things into fruition, so that you kind of really don't notice. You're like, oh, that might be messed up. Maybe they'll just say, oh, we'll make it a little bit cheaper, because what they know is that eventually what they can do is they can basically, when these phones become old and out of date, they'll just remove the software or make the software incompatible with the hardware that you have. And of course, you have to buy a charger for your phone, and maybe that also will be part of the subscription model, right? You'll have the subscription for the phone, and you'll be like, well, you need a charger, right? You need a charger as well for that phone, just like they do now, right? You buy your phone, and then you have to buy your charger separately. So you'll have a subscription for your phone, and potentially you could have a subscription as well for the charger. Now, since you don't own the phone, well, you're also going to need insurance, aren't you, to cover the phone that you are subscribed to. They might have you put a deposit, like previously, or they just might make you put, maybe you'll put up a little bit of money. They'll charge you a little bit extra. It might be based off of your credit score, right? Your social credit score. And so it's a good way to, of course, now the reason that Apple is doing this is because a huge portion of their profits comes from their phone, as you can see down here in the diagram, where over 50% of the company's revenue, right, the largest segment of their revenue comes from the phone. And so what was happening was they weren't having as many sales that they wanted. And so obviously they need to figure out a way to increase revenue, right? Because you've got shareholders that you have to appease. And so instead of creating more value, well, they're just going to pull more liquidity from the client. And it seemed to be good news in the stock market. Apple was up a couple of dollars today. And so when I was looking at it, I was just like, it seems like a bad idea, because it might turn more people off to the concept than actually. But, they feel that they're people who buy their phones, it's more like a cult. I mean, they just change the camera and they charge you a couple of $100 more for the next model. And people run out. It's $1,000 or $1,100 or $1,200. You have a lot of people who are poor that are just hooked onto the Apple phones, and so they kind of understand their clientele, and so they think, you know what, instead of having these people pay us all that money at once, maybe we can earn a little bit more money. They're not giving you any more value, but it's definitely a good way to offer more value to their shareholders. So it goes on to say the subscription service will be expected to launch at the end of 2022, but could be delayed into 2023 or end up getting canceled, the people said. Right? So they're going to wait and see how the normies sort of react. Do people come in with their pitchforks and start turning in their Apple phones and saying, I don't approve of this? Or are they going to just kind of shrug their shoulders and say, hey, it's just one more expense in the you will own nothing and be happy world? As a reminder, iPhone sales account for more than half of Apple's revenue and are part of the largest segment of the business within the world's largest company, right? And so to stay afloat, to stay in essence, to stay ahead as the world's largest company, right? Because if you're, as they say in business, if you're not growing, they're dying. And so instead of offering people more value, offering either a better phone, a higher quality service, right? I mean, shoot, you drop an Apple phone. I don't know how many people's Apple phones that I see with cracked screens. And of course, the screens are really cheap. If you go out, they got some little kid in Bangladesh that creates them for a couple of bucks, but then they charge you, who knows how much to reinstall it, as if it's really difficult. It says the initial knee-jerk higher in Apple stock has been rapidly erased as investors question the reasoning for Tim Cook's decision to shift the model. And so in the beginning of the day, I did notice that where Apple stock kind of pushed up a little bit. I think we can take a look at the chart. During the daytime, Apple stock did pull up here, and then it kind of like meandered for a little bit, and it closed basically at the highest of the day on volume. So I guess according to investors, investors are like, well, hey, if this is how they're going to provide us with better dividends, higher stock prices, better, more money in terms of buying back their stock, which is just going to raise the price of the stock for individuals who are obviously for their investors. And of course, for people like Tim Cook, the CEOs, they typically get these stock packages, which is typically how many of these CEOs skirt around having to pay taxes, because instead of getting a salary that they get paid every month, because they get paid, obviously would get paid very well, and then paying a lot of that money back to the government, the workaround is via stock options, right? They give you options. Then now because you own the stock, right, then they exercise the options. Now they own the stock, and then they go and take out a loan. This is how Elon Musk and many other wealthy people are able to skirt around the laws and not have to pay taxes until they sell their shares. Like recently, Elon Musk did. I think he paid like $5 billion in was it 5 or 15? I forget how much he paid, but he was basically the highest taxpayer. And the reason that they go around it is because they just take out a loan based off of their shares. Kind of like how if you own your home, you can go to the bank. If you've got equity in your home, you can take a loan out from your home, and of course you don't pay taxes on that. You pay taxes against. You actually get reduction in your taxes, because then when you pay back the loan, you're paying off the interest, and that's tax deductible as well. So since the loan doesn't count as income, that's how they're basically able to live and buy stuff, etc. But this is what Apple has in store. It says this move by Apple comes after China Academy of Information and Communications Technology disclosed that international Apple shipments tracked a 2.1 units for the month of February, only modestly below the historical average of 2.2. This is most notably, this means that shipments in February decreased by 71% versus seasonal downtake of 55%. And so this is basically Apple basically trying to save the shareholders so that they don't see a huge pullback. And this is basically what they're doing to make investors, or people who own Apple stock, to make them whole, right? To appease them. Anyway, I thought this was very interesting to note for people who own Apple. I don't. I've always used Android because I've never been into the cult of Apple, because there's really no value there from my perspective. I see what they're doing. They just keep making the same phone, and they just kind of, we'll give you a little bit of a better camera, and then call it good at that point. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. I'll leave the link to the article for those who are actually interested in digging a little bit more into it. Thanks for watching, and I'll check you next time.